I relived the day I confessed to Sebastian Montague amidst the cheers around me. He looked at me, his eyes swollen and red from crying, coldly asking, "Victoria Lancaster, is it really so fun to attract attention?" Then he turned to gaze at the bright moon beside him with a gentle look. "Wait for me a moment. I'll come find you once I'm done," he irritably lectured me. "Why do you like to cry so much? If you have time, read more books. Don't just think about love all day long." Annoyed, I pushed him away and rushed into the person behind me, the classmate who was watching the drama unfold. "Husband," I hugged the person in my arms, sobbing silently. At 18, Adrian Vaughn was still alive. Everything was still in time. Before he passed away, Adrian Vaughn had held my hand and made me promise to live to 100 before I could go find him. I had agreed. Yet, as soon as I turned away, I deceived him. 3 days later, I went to find him. Yet, as soon as I turned away, I deceived him. 3 days later, I went to find him. Before closing my eyes, I even gave myself a reason. Once I met him, I would say I dreamed of him down there flirting with other female ghosts. In reality, I hadn't dreamed at all. Without him, I simply couldn't sleep. When I opened my eyes again, I found I had returned to my 18-year-old self. I held a bouquet of flowers, the cheers around me ringing out, "Confess! Confess!" The crowd jostled, but my first gaze fell upon the brilliant golden hair in the dark corner. He stood there, unnoticed by anyone, his gaze drifting past me, both indifferent and intentional. I looked at him, tears immediately overflowing. Just as I was about to speak, Sebastian Montague's voice rang out, "Victoria Lancaster, is it really so fun to attract attention?" In that moment, I finally recognized the person standing before me. His brows slightly furrowed, his expression indifferent. The lively atmosphere suddenly froze, until Lorenzo Fontaine broke the awkwardness. "Sebastian Montague, we need to confirm the acceptance speech." Sebastian Montague tilted his head to look at her. "Wait for me a moment. I'll come find you once I'm done." A rare, gentle look in his eyes. Lorenzo Fontaine was a top student, like Sebastian Montague. Someone once joked that they were indeed a match made in heaven. The top student and the study god. Lorenzo Fontaine merely responded indifferently. "I'm not the type of girl whose mind is filled only with love." At that time, the way Sebastian Montague looked at her carried a rare admiration. He had also told me that he didn't like girls whose minds were solely occupied with love. Yet, that year I was precisely that kind of girl, my mind filled only with him. I even deluded myself into thinking that if I confessed on his birthday, he wouldn't put me in an awkward position. It was only much later that I understood what he hated most was being bound by my morals. Just like this moment, he took the bouquet from my hands, somewhat impatiently. "If you have time, read more books. Don't think about love all day long." If you have time, read more books. Don't think about love all day long. I was taken aback. Look, Victoria Lancaster is crying. She's pursued Sebastian Montague for so many years, and now she's gone from beauty to a laughingstock. I feel embarrassed for her. In my past life, I truly cried out of humiliation, but at this moment, in my eyes, there was only the golden-haired figure in that shadowy corner. I stared at him intently, my mouth slightly opened, but my trembling voice couldn't produce a sound. Tears just kept flowing. "Victoria Lancaster, why do you like to cry so much? It's annoying." He kept talking, even blocking my view. I pushed Sebastian Montague away forcefully and dashed straight towards the person I thought I had lost forever. Husband, you're still alive and doing so well. Boo-hoo." A warm chest, the familiar scent of sunshine. I hugged him, crying silently. The person in my arms stiffened. "No, you must have mistaken me, right?" His face turned bright red to his ears. "Victoria Lancaster, who are you calling husband?" Shenming's voice came from behind, carrying a hint of anger. "Same trick. How many more times are you planning to use it?" Indeed, in my past life, to make Shenming jealous, I had intentionally acted close with other boys more than once. He would get angry, but then he would casually comfort me with a few words. This time, However, the target of his disdain was someone he thought very little of, a little brat. This time, however, the target of his disdain was someone he thought very little of, a little brat. I clung tightly to Adrian Vaughn, crying even harder. Wah. Husband, you're really alive. I can't believe it. My hand slipped under his shirt, urgently checking for any fatal wounds from his past life. Adrian Vaughn was so startled by my actions that he didn't know how to respond. Hey, what are you doing? I sobbed and replied. Take off your shirt so I can see a little. His face immediately turned bright red. I'm a decent person. Don't do anything inappropriate. I cried even louder. Wah. Husband, I have to see. I beg you, just let me look a little. He was flustered, his hands fidgeting as he didn't know where to put them, and finally he helplessly whispered, Okay, fine, wait. Wait until there's no one around, then you can look, all right? Seeing this scene, Sebastian Montague's eyes clearly showed his disgust. Victoria Lancaster, don't you feel embarrassed doing this in front of everyone? I won't comfort you this time. After saying that, he turned and walked away. Is the young lady done performing and still won't let go? A voice from above rang down, laced with mockery. After saying that, he turned and walked away. Is the young lady done performing and still won't let go? A voice from above rang down, laced with mockery. I just shook my head, clinging tightly to his neck, crying and heaving sobs, refusing to let go. Not for this lifetime. Victoria Lancaster, at 18, didn't break her leg, didn't fall into depression. Adrian Vaughn, at 18, never took a knife for you. Everything is still possible. Adrian Vaughn couldn't believe it, threatening. So I'm going out then? He picked me up and carried me out of the classroom. As soon as we stepped outside, the homeroom teacher's voice echoed. Hey, Adrian Vaughn, aren't you going to practice? Why are you carrying a girl around like some rogue? I still clung to him, not letting go. Seeing I didn't react at all, Adrian Vaughn blushed and tried to explain. Report, sir. The girl broke her leg. I'm taking her to the infirmary. The teacher's tone softened. This kid has a bit of compassion, doesn't he? Suddenly remembering my past life, Adrian Vaughn was just like this, carrying me everywhere to check my leg, patiently accompanying me through every physical therapy session. When everyone had moved away, he looked at me, his expression full of helplessness. Hey, young lady, what kind of act are you putting on now? I still wouldn't let go of his neck. Husband. He gritted his teeth and said, Don't call me husband. Who's your husband? You are my husband. I pouted in grievance, whispering, My beloved husband, you're my favorite in the whole world. Adrian Vaughn seemed like he was about to explode, lowering his voice to remind me. Young lady, do you remember who threw away my love letter yesterday? I immediately froze. It was truly the most inappropriate moment Adrian Vaughn had confessed to me. But at that time, I coldly stomped on the letter and said, I hate the type who only knows how to use their muscles and has no brains like you. Looking back at myself, I was just a flexible dancing student, but my mind wasn't any sharper. In fact, I didn't hate Adrian Vaughn that much. It was Sebastian Montague who hated him. So I ended up hating him too. Sebastian Montague hated all fools, especially types like Adrian Vaughn. Poor in studies yet arrogant in school. I blinked, trying to appear sincere as I explained. About that yesterday, I just wanted to test your feelings. Then I assured him, Husband, from now on, I'll only like you. The corner of Adrian Vaughn's mouth twitched slightly. Ugh, can you please stop calling me husband? I shook my head resolute. No way. He gritted his teeth, finally sighed in defeat. Fine, call me whatever you want. Watching me cling to him like a koala, he sighed, but then said, Hey, Victoria Lancaster, you're a person, not a monkey. Can you please get off me? I giggled. But I want to hold you a little longer. My beloved husband. His throat moved slightly, and his ears turned bright red. Adrian Vaughn at 18 was both adorable and charmingly naive. Adrian Vaughn turned and carried me to his Uncle Tom's house. The old man was sitting at the end of the alley, fortune-telling for people, always shrouded in mystery. Sir, it seems she's been possessed. With eyes this red. It's definitely something following her. Keep this talisman with you to ward off evil and avoid misfortune. Wait for me a moment, don't follow. I'll be right back. I want to know. Is there a talisman that can keep her in this state forever? Alright. I knew it. You've been losing your mind over me. Throwing yourself against the wall for me. Adrian Vaughn. In this life, let me run towards you. I lived with the Sebastian Montague family. The two families had been close since childhood, with a betrothal already arranged. When I was 10 years old, my parents died in an accident. Victoria, you still have me. I will always be by your side. I moved into the Shen family's house, and his parents treated me very well. I had been learning to dance since I was little, and his mother invited the best teachers for me. My wardrobe was filled with beautiful clothes that Aunt Shin bought for me, but no matter how good they were to me, I was not their child. They initially saw me as a future daughter-in-law, until the day I broke my leg and could no longer walk normally. That's when they began to feel that a daughter-in-law like me wouldn't be suitable. They told me, Victoria, we always see you as our own daughter, and Sebastian considers you just like a sister. They reassured me, saying they would definitely find me a good husband. At the dining table, Mr. and Mrs. Shen served me food and asked about my studies. Remembering their words from my past life, I found it amusing. I put down my chopsticks and said, Uncle, Aunt, I want to stay in the school dormitory. That way, I can focus on my studies better. You know I'm not good at academics. They were a bit surprised. The school dormitory is in such poor condition. How can you stay there? Victoria, don't put too much pressure on yourself. Sebastian is doing well in his studies. Let him help you. I calmly shook my head. No need. He's been busy with competitions lately, and I don't want to bother him. Aunt Shen seemed to sense something. Did you two have a fight? Sebastian didn't say anything. I just smiled. Not at all. He treats me very well, and I always see him as my own brother. I continued. In the future, you will definitely find an outstanding girl like him to be your daughter-in-law, uncle and aunt. Sebastian's gaze froze for a moment as he looked at me. I wasn't in the mood to eat, so I stood up and returned to my room. But even lying on the bed, the familiar feeling of sleepless nights from my past life came rushing back. Back then, my depression was severe. I had to rely on sleeping pills to get any rest, and it wasn't until I was with Adrian that I gradually began to heal. Those who suffer from insomnia always feel anxious and uncomfortable. I resolutely got up and went to the living room to pour myself a glass of water, only to unexpectedly run into Sebastian there. Eat a little. I noticed you hardly ate anything tonight. He placed a bowl of my favorite chicken wontons in front of me. Are you still upset about what happened today? He squatted in front of me, exhaling helplessly. I'm just upset that you're already in the 12th grade and not focusing on your studies. Seeing that I didn't respond, he reached out to ruffle my hair. Alright, don't be mad anymore. He gently smiled with a hint of exasperation. You silly girl. He was always like this. When I felt wronged, he would softly say a few comforting words, and I, being foolish, kept forgiving him time and again, deceiving myself into thinking he liked me because he treated me kindly and did little things that seemed to show concern. Noticing my continued silence, he gently stroked my hair, his tone filled with affection. What do you think? Will our child be as silly as you? He had said this in my past life too. At that time, I was deeply touched, thinking he had once dreamed of our future together. But little did I know that it was just a casual remark. After he and Lorenzo received their awards, a teacher had once remarked that if these two ended up together, their children would surely be very intelligent. He never considered marrying me or having children with me. He only worried that being with me would affect the intelligence of the next generation. I smirked and looked at him. Don't worry, we won't have kids in the future. Sebastian let out a sigh, frowning. Victoria Lancaster, I'm very busy too. I don't have time to indulge your unpredictable temper. I chuckled softly and replied calmly. There won't be any more of that in the future. I smirked and looked at him. Don't worry, we won't have kids in the future. I stepped out of the house with dark circles under my eyes and headed straight to Adrian Vaughn's house, banging on the door loudly. Adrian Vaughn's parents had divorced, and he lived alone in a house near the school. The door just opened, and without hesitation, I rushed straight into his arms. "Honey, I want to sleep with you." "Oh." He was taken aback, raising his hands as if he didn't know what to do. "Not you, Victoria Lancaster. I don't provide that kind of service. Without you, I can't sleep." I clung tightly to him, my voice filled with exhaustion and a lump in my throat. "Honey, I really want to sleep." He was going crazy, muttering and cursing. "Sleep, sleep, sleep." And just like that, I successfully entered his bedroom. As soon as I lay down on the bed, he grabbed a pillow, intending to go to the living room. I quickly pulled his hand back. "Where are you going? You can't sleep on the sofa. You have to sleep with me." I held his hand tightly, my tone full of pity. "If you're not by my side, I can't sleep, honey." In my past life, Adrian Vaughn was like my teddy bear. Having him next to me always made me feel safe and sleep soundly. I cried while clinging to him, refusing to let go. He was so angry that his face turned bright red, lying stiffly on the bed. "If you want to sleep, then sleep. Anyway, I'm the one who suffers." He gritted his teeth and said, "Let me tell you, I'm a thug. I'll dare to do anything." His mouth was threatening, but his face was flushed, turning away to lie as far from me as possible. I smiled happily, snuggling up from behind and wrapping my arms around him. My hand instinctively slipped down. He was holding the blanket and suddenly sat up in shock. "Victoria Lancaster, where?" I lowered my head, my voice filled with grievance. "Holding on gives me a sense of security." "You feel secure? What about me?" He held himself tightly, looking like a conservative virgin. Sometimes I really wanted to call the police on myself. Clearly, he loved being held while sleeping in the nude. He stared wide-eyed, unable to believe it. "What? When did I like sleeping like that?" "Ever since being with me. After getting married, Adrian Vaughn started to enjoy sleeping naked, even forcing me to join in. He called it skin to skin. It's more comfortable. No matter what. It really was comfortable." Adrian Vaughn looked at me suspiciously, his mind filled with question marks. "Victoria Lancaster, have you been possessed by some spirit? Do you need to absorb a man's energy to survive? Then can you?" His face immediately turned bright red, seriously refusing. "I don't even think about it. Let me tell you, I'm a model student. I absolutely won't date early, but if I can't hold you while sleeping, I can't sleep." I pouted, my voice on the verge of tears. "Honey," his eyes flashed with conflict. "Then just holding, is that okay?" He was going crazy, but also completely helpless. "Consider it my plea to you. I remember very clearly that I had to wait until I was 25 to be with Adrian Vaughn. Who would have guessed that a romantic and sentimental Adrian Vaughn at adulthood, when he was just 18, would be so innocent? It was truly adorable. At 18, the age of innocence and vitality, an earnest and hard-working boy, just the type to make older sisters swoon. It was really hard to resist. Then can I just take a look? Then can I just take a little peek?" He looked like he had stepped on a tail, his ears red, his eyes panicked. "Victoria Lancaster, are you still a virgin?" "TSK, you don't understand. A 28-year-old woman is not in a wolfish state." I bit my lip, my voice filled with grievance. "Honey, calling me dad won't help." He quickly wrapped me in the blanket like a rice cake, then lay on top of me, preventing me from moving. "Sleep. And don't call me honey anymore." I obediently nodded. "All right, honey. I mean, classmate Adrian Vaughn." The familiar scent, the familiar heartbeat. My Adrian Vaughn was back. Looking at him at 18, I softly said, "Classmate Adrian Vaughn, I'm not possessed. Actually, I'm Victoria Lancaster, 28 years old." "Humph. Why don't you just say you're a fairy from heaven?" "I really am. I really come from 10 years later," he replied nonchalantly. "All right, you say you're from Mars, I believe it. You don't believe me, do you?" I thought for a moment and lowered my voice. "You have a mole down there." He suddenly jolted, his face clearly showing shock. "Damn it, Victoria Lancaster, when did you sneak a peek?" I chuckled softly. 5 years from now. He hesitated for a few seconds and asked again, "Are you really from 10 years later?" Unable to hide his curiosity, he continued, "So will I win the world championship in 10 years?" "Of course." "At 20, you become the world champion, and by 25, you achieve a grand slam worldwide. No one swims faster than you." "Damn, I'm not awesome. What about you? Did you become a famous dancer too?" "Of course." "Are we married?" There was a hint of hesitation mixed with excitement in his voice. "Yes, we started dating after graduating high school. The year you won the world championship, you proposed to me in front of the whole world." His eyes lit up, asking further, "So do we have kids yet?" I smiled and nodded. "Yes. After we reached the peak in our fields, you announced your retirement at 28, and I gradually transitioned from the stage to the classroom. That year we had a child." I tried to suppress the sting in my nose. In reality, the year he won the world championship, he never proposed to me. My life passed in a blur, chaotic and aimless. Victoria Lancaster at 25 was pulled out of the abyss by Mr. Tom, but she dragged him down into the dark pit with her. Fortunately, at 18, everything was still on time to change. This sleep was truly refreshing, and my mood felt much lighter. When I woke up, Adrian Vaughn had already gone out to practice early. He had been swimming since he was 7 or 8, for over 10 years now, challenging his limits every single day. This hardship was truly incomparable to the tough nights of studying. When I arrived at class, I happened to run into the homeroom teacher. "Perfect timing, Victoria. Graduation is just around the corner. How is the rehearsal going?" I was momentarily taken aback. Before I could respond, my desk mate spoke up first. "Teacher, Victoria dances incredibly well, and the staging for our class performance is excellent. Plus, with Sebastian Montague's solo piano accompaniment, the audience will surely be impressed. Our class is definitely going to win the championship." The teacher nodded in satisfaction. "Good. Then make sure to practice more." It was then that I remembered the graduation ceremony was approaching, and all the girls in the class would be performing a group dance. The homeroom teacher had assigned this task and mentioned that it was a rare opportunity for the whole class to relax a bit. So everyone went to the dance studio to rehearse. The chosen program was a classical dance performed by all the girls. Sebastian Montague would accompany on the piano and sing backup off stage. Sebastian Montague had been playing the piano exceptionally well since childhood, and his singing voice was also quite good. I really wanted our class to earn this honor, so I had to plead with him for a long time before he finally agreed. However, at that moment, Lorenzo Fontaine arrived late to the studio. A classmate couldn't help but tease, "Hey, Lorenzo, you always make the whole class wait. Can you be a little less selfish and think about the group for once?" Lorenzo, with an air of indifference, replied, "Sorry, the principal just called for me. He said that I and Sebastian Montague are to prepare an outstanding speech for the graduation ceremony." His voice was neither loud nor soft, but it exuded an air of superiority and pride. Someone nearby muttered, "What are you bragging about?" After Lorenzo joined the group, I continued with the previous rehearsal. "All right, let's review the moves from yesterday. Then we'll coordinate with Sebastian Montague's part." Everyone danced quite well, except for Lorenzo, who still couldn't keep up with the rhythm. At this point, dissatisfaction began to spread. "Hey Lorenzo, what's wrong with you? You didn't learn this move yesterday. You said you'd practice at home, and yet you still can't keep up today." "Exactly. Can you not hold the whole class back? Aren't you supposed to be a top student? How can you not handle such a simple move?" Complaints kept pouring in, and Lorenzo's face showed a hint of annoyance. She coldly replied, "It's just a small program for the graduation ceremony. Why should it take up my study time?" She paused and emphasized, "Before criticizing others, you should first look at your own achievements. What gives you the right to waste your youth here? What does dancing this routine even mean? Does it help you get extra points for college entrance exams?" My anger flared up immediately. "Lorenzo, it's clear that you arrived late and haven't practiced the moves well. Why are you blaming others?" She let out a cold laugh. Victoria, it's obvious you want to stand out. Why drag others down to be your backdrop? Someone couldn't hold back and shouted. This is a collective honor. How can it be about Victoria wanting to stand out? Hearing this, everyone burst into laughter, and Lorenzo's face turned pale, but she still coldly retorted with a disdainful remark. I don't want to argue with you all. It's really pointless. In fact, Lorenzo never had a good relationship with her classmates. She had once arrogantly declared, I don't like hanging out with girls. Girls are too scheming. I'm not like them. She really was different from us. While the whole class secretly read silly romance novels, she would be engrossed in an English poetry book by Tego. When the teacher asked her to share her method for solving a math problem, she would write down a series of complex formulas and emphasize, this is the integral formula. You only learn in college, so only Sebastian Montague would understand. Many girls in the class found her too much, but Sebastian Montague considered her a kindred spirit. Even Sebastian Montague believed that I was the one leading the isolation and bullying of Lorenzo Fontaine. Whenever Sebastian Montague spoke up to defend her, she would merely respond with indifference. Forget it. It's not worth arguing with idiots. This only made Sebastian Montague admire her more. Someone once said that people like Sebastian Montague, a true academic, only liked girls who were his intellectual equals. The affection they pursued was one of intellect, while in his eyes, I was merely an art student with a simple mind. I couldn't be bothered. I just clapped and laughed lightly. If that's the case, Lorenzo Fontaine, you don't need to dance anymore. Staring at her, I smirked sarcastically. After all, your dancing really is quite amusing. The studio erupted in laughter. You! Lorenzo Fontaine was so angry she couldn't say a word. Beside her, Sebastian Montague could no longer stand by. Victoria Lancaster, why do you speak so harshly? I smiled coldly. Harsh? In my past life, when I broke my leg, she used this very tone to say to me, Victoria Lancaster, your walking style is really quite funny. I was just learning from her. Besides, she didn't break her leg. Sebastian Montague's gaze flickered with anger. How long are you going to bully Lorenzo Fontaine? He stood in front of her, declaring loudly, Let me tell you, if she withdraws, I will withdraw too. Lorenzo Fontaine was so moved her eyes turned red. Sebastian Montague, I smiled faintly, utterly unconcerned. Well, that's just great. In my past life, Lorenzo Fontaine intentionally fell right at Sebastian Montague's feet during a performance to prevent me from standing out. Sebastian Montague instinctively helped her up. The music suddenly stopped, and the entire performance fell into an awkward silence, everyone panicking and unable to find the rhythm, their movements becoming chaotic. Yet, Sebastian Montague's instinctive action to save Lorenzo Fontaine was praised by everyone. They were both excellent students and well-liked by teachers. The teachers said that friendship was paramount, competition was secondary, and praised Sebastian Montague's actions as a model for everyone to learn from. They even received a special award. When accepting the award, Lorenzo Fontaine deliberately turned back to wave at me. Victoria, could you please take a picture of us? The entire auditorium erupted in enthusiastic applause for them. Lorenzo Fontaine and Sebastian Montague beamed with joy, while the girls in the class quietly cried behind the scenes. After Sebastian Montague and Lorenzo Fontaine withdrew from the performance, the class fell into an awkward situation due to the lack of backup vocals. Victoria, if it's not working, should we just play the background music? Someone suggested helplessly. I waved my hand. It's fine, someone can fill in. In my past life, when I was severely depressed, Adrian Vaughn often hugged me and sang softly in my ear. His voice was truly beautiful. Later, when my leg healed, he was the one who encouraged me to regain my passion and step back onto the stage. I danced while he accompanied me on the piano. Without hesitation, I called Adrian Vaughn. Classmate Adrian Vaughn, we need you to come and play the piano and sing for our performance. He blurted out before he could think. I don't know how to do that. I unleashed my secret weapon. Husband, husband, husband. Shut up. Husband, I'm coming right now. I couldn't help but laugh. His reaction was truly no different from a dog who, despite 100 refusals, still rushed over at lightning speed. Sebastian Montague and Lorenzo Fontaine were astonished when they found out. Unbelievable. How can Adrian Vaughn replace you and perform? Sebastian Montague snorted disdainfully. What can a sports guy do that's impressive? In his eyes, both athletes and artists were just escape routes for poor students. However, those doubts did not dampen the enthusiasm of the entire class. When the performance night began, the lights shone brightly, and I led the girls in a graceful dance. The smooth sound of the piano accompanied by a warm voice filled the auditorium, leaving the entire audience stunned, before erupting into thunderous applause and cheers. Incredible. Our class is truly mesmerizing. Look at that. Is there anything else you're hiding from us, Your Highness? Athletic Committee member, why are you still swimming? You might as well just dive in. As the performance concluded, Adrian Vaughn approached me, a hint of pride on his face. So did I embarrass you? Looking at him, my eyes sparkled with pink bubbles. Darling, you are the best, he exclaimed in surprise, looking up. Of course, our performance received outstanding feedback, and as expected, we won the championship. Adrian Vaughn and I were chosen to represent our class on stage to accept the award. The principal, with a satisfied expression, said, I never expected that the students of NunuKuma would be so talented. In previous years, the school often chose students with outstanding achievements to represent us, but our focus is on the comprehensive development of morality, intellect, physical fitness, and aesthetics. I believe that in the future, our students will shine in every field. He paused for a moment, his gaze turning towards us. So, Victoria Lancaster and Adrian Vaughn, please come up to speak on behalf of your fellow students. We were momentarily taken aback by the unexpected request. My eyes glanced down at the stage, where Lorenzo Fontaine was tightly gripping the prepared speech, his face full of discontent. Sebastian Montague's gaze was fixed on us, his expression complex. Standing on stage, I took a deep breath and began my speech. Hello everyone, I am Victoria Lancaster. My mother, when she was alive, was an outstanding classical dancer. Under her influence, I stepped onto this path at the age of 7. From my very first basic practices, through countless falls and getting back up, I have never once thought of giving up. Dance has not only taught me how to perform beautiful movements, but it has also been a lesson in resilience, perseverance, and pursuing dreams to the end. My dream is to enter the Beijing Dance Academy and win the championship at the Cut Dao competition. Adrian Vaughn stepped forward, his tall figure appearing even more steadfast. Hello everyone, I am Adrian Vaughn, a sports student passionate about swimming. From the fear and despair of my first near-drowning experience at the age of 8, to the feeling of freedom like a fish swimming in water at 18, each day of training has been a double challenge for my body and willpower. Failure, pain, and doubt have never made me give up, because I have a dream. He paused, his expression serious, no longer playful, his eyes filled with determination. My dream is to enter Beijing Sports University and become an Olympic champion. Below the stage, the applause roared like thunder. At 18, the unfinished dreams would finally come to fruition. After receiving the award and stepping down from the stage, the girls in the class quickly rushed over to hug the trophy for photos. Let's find someone to take a group photo for us, one suggested. I smiled and looked towards Lorenzo Fontaine, waving her over. Lorenzo Fontaine, could you please take a picture for us? After all, you're the only one not participating. Lorenzo Fontaine struggled to suppress her anger, reluctantly raising her phone. Adrian Vaughn hurried over to Sebastian Montague, handing him the phone with a smug smile. Class monitor, could you please take a picture of me and my wife? Sebastian Montague coldly accepted the phone. Adrian Vaughn then showed me the photo. Is it okay? I glanced at it and casually replied, It's fine. Then let's trouble the class monitor once more. My wife isn't very satisfied. Sebastian Montague finally couldn't take it anymore and shouted at Adrian Vaughn. Adrian Vaughn, who do you think you are? Adrian Vaughn threw his arm around my shoulders, beaming. Me? I'm Victoria Lancaster's husband, of course. Sebastian Montague's face turned pale, gritting his teeth at him. You're just a sports jock, a thug. How do you think you deserve someone like Victoria? And claiming to be an Olympic champion? You're just daydreaming. I stepped forward, meeting Sebastian Montague's gaze with a cold smile. Sebastian Montague, if I remember correctly, you ranked 25th in the provincial mock exam, while Adrian Vaughn's recent competition results, he ranked 2nd in the province, 5th in the nation. Clearly, you're the one who's incompetent. How dare you look down on others? I lightly tugged at Adrian Vaughn's sleeve, turning to leave with him. Send me the photo, okay? I want to set it as my wallpaper, Adrian Vaughn. Wait, let me edit it a bit more. I turned back to him, half jokingly. You're a man. How can you be whiter than me? Adrian Vaughn shrugged and laughed. It's just the pool water and whitening powder. After school, Sebastian Montague blocked my way home. I felt annoyed. What do you want? He explained. Don't you want to apply to the Beijing Dance Academy? Go home, and I'll help you with your cultural studies. No need. In my previous life, when he helped me with my studies, he always showed immense impatience, unable to understand why I couldn't grasp such simple questions. Each time he helped me felt like torture. About the performance at the cultural event, I was wrong and I'm sorry. His voice was rarely this gentle, his attitude lowered. Don't be mad anymore, okay? I let out a cold laugh. Sebastian Montague, I've never been mad at you. You don't need to worry about my studies. If you're free, go find Lorenzo Fontaine and discuss some poetry or whatever about life and death. Victoria, I don't like Lorenzo Fontaine, he hurriedly explained, even making a promise. I'll fill out my college application for Beijing, and after graduation, we'll be together, I promise. I frowned, directly exposing his lie. But didn't you and Lorenzo Fontaine just apply to a prestigious school abroad? Sebastian Montague quickly replied. Victoria, I was just testing it out. I have no intention of studying abroad. I found it utterly ridiculous. In my previous life, he also promised to go to Beijing with me, but on the day of my arts exam, Lorenzo Fontaine deliberately told me. Sebastian Montague asked me where I wanted to go to college. I said I wanted to study abroad, so he applied to the same school with me. Didn't he tell you? She had a haughty, disdainful attitude. Victoria Lancaster, how long do you want to cling to him? Clearly, he doesn't like you. In this world, only Sebastian Montague deserves me, and only I deserve him. That time, because of Lorenzo Fontaine's provoking words, I didn't get into my dream school. In response to my question, Sebastian Montague merely explained that studying abroad had more advantages. He also asserted that he didn't like Lorenzo Fontaine. He acknowledged our relationship, gave me the title of girlfriend, and said that if I waited a few years for him to graduate, we would get married. I believed him. But when he graduated, he said he wanted to focus on his career first. After that, he and Lorenzo Fontaine started a business together, seizing a golden opportunity in the industry, and both of their careers soared. Meanwhile, I spent those years quietly performing in a dance troupe, neither standing out nor drawing attention. Teachers always told me I had talent, but my dance lacked emotion. Sebastian Montague and Lorenzo Fontaine became the golden couple in the eyes of the media. They were a perfect match. While his promise of marriage to me was repeatedly postponed, I glanced at the numbers on the calendar. The college entrance exam was approaching. After all, Sebastian Montague was about to go abroad, and I had no reason to chase after him anymore. In Adrian Vaughn's small room, the two of us, both poor students, frantically crammed knowledge. Who signed the Treaty of Ma Quan? Not me. I know, not you. Backman has fish. Its name is Khan. Khan's great. A cast iron pot can't cook. I'm so tired of studying. Want to eat something? Sure, after being busy all night. Yet nothing seems to stick in my head. The next morning, just as Adrian Vaughn and I stepped outside, we unexpectedly ran into Sebastian Montague, who was accompanied by his parents. They all had serious expressions, their eyes filled with shock and anger. Sebastian Montague was the first to question. Victoria, you haven't been staying in the school dormitory. but have been at his house these past few days. I didn't deny it. That's right. His parents' faces immediately changed upon hearing this. Victoria, you're a girl. Why don't you know any shame? We've always treated you like our own daughter, raising you like a young lady since you were little. Yet you've fallen so low as to live with a scoundrel. Come home with us right now. I stood there silently, listening to their scolding. Then, I slightly curled my lips and calmly replied, Aunt and Uncle, I am very grateful for your care over the years, but I have grown up now, and I can walk my own path ahead. The money spent on raising me over the years is indeed considerable, but the family business my parents left behind after they passed is still managed by you on their behalf, and the profits from that must far exceed the amount spent on raising me, right? I won't ask for it back. Consider my repayment for your nurturing. However, from now on, I won't trouble you anymore. I will have a lawyer finalize the handover. Upon hearing this, both of them became furious. Victoria Lancaster, do you think we raised you just for your family's money? Indeed, when it comes to non-blood relations, it's different. After raising you for so many years, you've turned out to be a white-eyed wolf. You just for your family's money? Indeed, when it comes to non-blood relations, it's different. After raising you for so many years, you've turned out to be a white-eyed wolf. Even if you're not smart, we've never looked down on you, always treating you as our future daughter-in-law. Yet you repay us like this? Do you think you deserve to face your parents in the afterlife? Countless images from the past flashed through my mind, when I had naively believed their words, only to drown in their indifference and coldness, while desperately trying to struggle free. In this life, I would absolutely not let anyone trample on me. You treat me like your own daughter. Consider me your future daughter-in-law. In my past life, everyone was lost in the sweetness between Sebastian Montague and Lorenzo Fontaine, and no one knew of my existence, his official girlfriend. I was unwilling to accept this, and posted online to reveal my relationship with Sebastian Montague. His parents angrily questioned me. Victoria Lancaster, do you know that doing this will ruin Sebastian Montague's image and affect his career? It has given you the title of girlfriend. We have acknowledged you. What more do you want? You can't get anything done all day. Just know how to be jealous. Look at Lorenzo Fontaine. How outstanding he is. But when faced with the media, they responded, Victoria has been betrothed to Sebastian Montague since childhood. Her parents passed away early. We felt pity and adopted her, always treating her like our own daughter. Since she was little, she has been calling Sebastian Montague brother. In the blink of an eye, my name flooded the gossip columns. A childhood betrothal. What era are we in to still force marriages like this? They raised her, yet she turns around and bites back. Truly an ungrateful wretch. I heard that back in school she was a little thug, always bullying Lorenzo Fontaine, wanting to get famous to the point of madness. Rumor has it she's just a nobody. Is her dancing the seductive kind? Just look at her face. It's obviously been altered. The noble demeanor of Lorenzo Fontaine completely overshadows her. At that time, I was scrutinized in my personal life, subjected to online violence and crushed by the whole world, and all of this was thanks to them. Therefore, in this life, I absolutely will not tread the same path again. Victoria Lancaster, if you regret it later, don't come crying to us. Mrs. Sebastian Montague angrily threw this remark back at me, as if she was certain that I would lead a miserable life. Sebastian Montague stood beside her, astonished by my behavior and words, then angrily questioned, Victoria, how can you talk to my parents like that? Do you have any conscience at all? I slightly curled my lips, my gaze cold and a faint smile on my face. No, I am indeed an ungrateful person. I hope you will let me go. Sebastian Montague's parents pulled him away, reminding him, Let's go home. Don't get involved with her again. I stood silently in place for a long time. So long that before I could react, Adrian Vaughn unexpectedly wrapped his arms around me. He softly asked, his deep voice resonating in my ear, Victoria Lancaster, did you deceive me? Were you unhappy in your past life? I blinked gently, my eyelids trembling, and my nose suddenly felt a sting. Actually, we weren't supposed to wait until after graduating high school to be together. You chased after me for many years, only to end up with nothing but injuries. At 25, I was so severely depressed that I wanted to end my life, and then I accidentally fell onto the stage. At that moment, you appeared and said, "Victoria Lancaster, I am now a world champion. I will help you regain your dignity, marry me, and I will make you the happiest woman in the world," making that couple angry. On the day we register our marriage, you publicly announced to the media, "This is my wife, the girl I have secretly loved for many years." Many people criticized you for being blind, unfollowing you one after another, but you didn't care at all. You said athletes should let their achievements speak for themselves. You took me everywhere to find doctors to treat my legs and help me with rehabilitation. When I was anxious and worried, you played the guitar and sang for me. You held me while I slept, becoming my only tranquilizer. Day by day, I gradually recovered, finally returning to the stage. I tightened my arms around him, resting my head close to his ear, my voice soft. "The days spent with you are the happiest times of my life." Adrian Vaughn quietly patted my back gently, but he still came too late. Leaning against him, I tried hard to keep him from seeing my tear-filled eyes. I hadn't told him that, in fact, we wouldn't always be happy together. Adrian Vaughn married me at the peak of his career, when he had completed the Grand Slam and became a national hero. But the peak of an athlete's career is only brief. No one can remain undefeated forever. The expectations people had for him were so high that if he only won second place, they would scold him for being distracted by me. Until one competition, he had an injury from before and unfortunately developed a high fever right before the match. I was heartbroken and resolutely wanted him to withdraw from the competition. But at that moment, a frenzied fan rushed at me with a knife, shouting, "It's all your fault," making him fall from grace. Adrian Vaughn instinctively rushed to shield me. Close to the college entrance exam, Adrian Vaughn and I had to tirelessly supplement our cultural subjects while frantically honing our professional skills. Fortunately, in the latest competition, Adrian Vaughn won the provincial championship. I poured all my spirit into the art exam. On the exam day, I took his gold medal, frantically rubbing it for luck. Thanks to the blessing from the gold medal, I performed steadily throughout the exam, unexpectedly securing the top position in the art exam. As soon as I stepped out of the exam room, I originally intended to give him a strong hug, but unexpectedly, I ran into the male idol I admired in real life. He was tall and handsome beyond imagination, and even took the initiative to greet me. "Hello, you danced wonderfully." I was so excited that I immediately commanded Adrian Vaughn to take a photo of me and the god. The god looked at the gloomy face of someone and curiously asked, "Is he your classmate?" On the way back, someone looked like a resentful wife. "Who's the classmate? Why not call him husband anymore?" "Alright, if you can have him, does that mean you're no longer in love?" I fell silent. Am I just the third wheel? Am I just a joke? "Don't force me to kiss you right in front of this crowd." He immediately went silent. I secretly poked him in the side. "When can I kiss you?" His face turned bright red. Wait until there's no one around." Not long after, the university entrance exam results were announced, and both Adrian Vaughn and I scored above the standard. We both received acceptance letters from our dream school. What I didn't expect was that Sebastian Montague didn't go abroad for further study. Instead, he and Lorenzo Fontaine both passed the entrance exam for the same university in Beijing. The combination of the academic genius and the study prodigy from the same class continued to create a stir at school. They frequently participated in competitions together and won awards. On the school forum, someone posted a photo of the two and exclaimed that they were indeed a perfect match. In response to the rumors, Sebastian Montague directly denied it. "Just classmates. I already have someone I like." Later, someone discovered that he seemed to really have someone in his heart. He liked to watch classical dance performances, and every time he went, he brought along a bouquet of sunflowers. Some guessed that it was for the girl he liked. By then, we were already second-year students. Thanks to his outstanding achievements, Adrian Vaughn was selected for the national team. while I became an overnight internet sensation for being a backup dancer in a hit TV series. Netizens praised. Victoria Lancaster dances breathtakingly, truly deserving of that year's art top scorer. This girl has a perfect face and figure. Why not consider entering SFBE? I heard she's about to have a performance. I have to stay up all night to grab tickets. The shows at the theater always sell out. Later, someone noticed that in the front row of every performance, there was always a boy silently watching the stage while holding a bouquet of sunflowers. Subsequently, rumors spread that this boy was an outstanding scholar from a prestigious school and also my childhood friend. Netizens began to frantically ship us. At this time, Lorenzo Fontaine posted a photo of herself with Sebastian Montague at a competition, along with the caption, "The one who understands me best is," but this time, she received all criticism. "No way, sis. Sebastian Montague has already denied it." "Just classmates. Why are you trying to ride on this?" "You want to be famous so badly, right?" Lorenzo Fontaine used to look down on others because of her high scores. Everyone is annoyed with her. What does their childhood friendship have to do with you? Who gave you the confidence to think Sebastian Montague would like you? It's clear you have ulterior motives. Your figure, looks, and temperament are all overshadowed by Victoria Lancaster. The rumors online became so intense, it was hard to believe. Sebastian Montague's parents even gave interviews to the media, declaring, "Lancaster, she is our daughter-in-law. She and two men have been childhood friends, and there was an engagement arranged. After Lancaster's parents passed away, we took her in and raised her. She studied dance, and we loved her like our own daughter. After Lancaster's parents passed away, we took her in and raised her. She studied dance, and we loved her like our own daughter." Seeing the completely different attitude of the couple, I could only find it amusing. I refused all their calls for reconciliation and turned around to post the contract drawn up by the lawyer back then, which clearly stated the amount of money they had earned from my family's assets over the years. I thought these two were kind-hearted. Turns out they were just swallowing up someone else's fortune. Lancaster started learning to dance at the age of 7. How could you claim to have raised her? Sucking people's blood and still expecting gratitude. Don't you feel ashamed? Many reporters kept asking me about my relationship with Sebastian Montague. I heard you and Sebastian Montague are childhood sweethearts. I thought for a moment and replied, "Not anymore. Not found in translation." After that, I posted on Weibo tagging Adrian Vaughn. "This is my not-so-legal husband." In an instant, Adrian Vaughn's follower count skyrocketed. Oh my gosh, it really is Lancaster's choice. With a handsome guy like this, he can only be dedicated to the country. Tall and long-legged. I can't even imagine how comfortable it would be to lie on that. What a heavenly couple. I ship them hard. That night, I slept on Mr. Tom's abs, feeling incredibly happy. Someone had long stopped being the shy teenager who blushed at the slightest touch. His skills were incredibly diverse, and he was very dedicated. I gradually couldn't take it anymore. After swimming 3,000 m, how could he still have so much energy? Go to sleep. Go to sleep. I'm about to die from exhaustion, I shouted in protest, holding tightly onto his mischievous hand. Button my shirt back up. He skillfully dodged, his voice deep and husky. Wife, how can you? Go to sleep. Go to sleep. I'm about to die from exhaustion, I shouted in protest, holding tightly onto his mischievous hand. Button my shirt back up. He skillfully dodged, his voice deep and husky. Wife, how can you call this sleeping in clothes like that? After the performance, I saw Sebastian Montague again. This guy is truly unbearable. Back then, when I chased after him, he didn't even bother to pay attention. Now that I'm keeping my distance, I feel like a stray dog, clinging on and not letting go. He held a bouquet of flowers, his expression looking quite gloomy. Victoria, I understand that I've done many things in the past that hurt you, but I really like you. For all these years, I've always thought you would look back at me just once. He lowered his head, his voice hoarse, his eyes red. I don't understand why you suddenly stopped caring about me. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm, but the memories of my past life felt like a desperate dream. Sebastian Montague, I had a dream. After graduation, you left me and went abroad to study with Lorenzo Fontaine. You said that once you graduated, we would get married. I waited and waited until you graduated, but then you said you needed a career before you could marry me and told me to wait a little longer. After that, you and Lorenzo Fontaine started your careers together, spending every day together, understanding each other, becoming the golden couple in everyone's eyes, while no one knew I was actually your girlfriend. At that time, I begged you to come see my performance. Even if it was just once to give me a flower, I would forgive you, but you never came even once. He stood there, stunned as if he couldn't believe it. I looked at him with a bitter smile. You said that a small stage like that wasn't worth watching, and you asked if I knew how busy you were? Yes, you were busy dating Lorenzo Fontaine, busy ringing the bell on the Nasdaq floor, traveling together, meeting each other's families. I waited for you for so many years. I couldn't accept it, but so what? Everyone thought I was the wicked one interfering in your life. In fact, I had been sick for a long time, and eventually I went crazy, doing foolish things many times. Faced with my moral constraints, you felt annoyed, saying that marrying me should be enough, right? But right before the wedding, Lorenzo Fontaine sent me her pregnancy report, and in my panic, I fell off the stage and became disabled. I closed my eyes. My throat felt bitter. In the end, your parents gave me a sum of money, telling me to live or die on my own. He was stunned, hurriedly explaining. How could I do that? I'm not that kind of person, Victoria. I promised I would always protect you. I promised I would always protect you. Was it just a dream? I coldly shook my head. No, Sebastian Montague, I'm not smart, but I'm not foolish either. I looked him straight in the eye. Do you really like me? No, you just can't accept it. You're smart enough to know what I like, to know what makes me unhappy, and you know how to comfort me, but you deliberately don't do it, making me suffer time and time again. You just enjoyed my admiration, Lorenzo Fontaine's respect, wanting everything. Put away your cheap love. I don't need it, and you don't deserve it. After joining the national team, Adrian Vaughn began participating in international competitions, continuously breaking his own records, and the whole world witnessed his glory. As for me, after gaining some fame, I focused all my energy on preparing for the Coup d'Oeil competition. Coup d'Oeil is the most prestigious award in the dance world, and my mother's biggest regret in life was never winning the championship. I promised myself that I would do my utmost to make up for that regret for her. Adrian Vaughn and I said we loved each other, but we rarely met. During the rare moments we were together, we dated near the school. Just a few steps in, a car suddenly sped toward us from a corner. Adrian Vaughn almost instantly reacted, pushing me behind him. A loud crash echoed, and we both fell to the ground. The memory of him covered in blood from my past life kept flashing in my mind. My heart felt like it was being squeezed by an invisible hand. My whole body trembled, and I screamed hoarsely, calling his name. Chi-Young, wife. You're okay, really. He awkwardly comforted me. Don't cry. Don't cry. It's just a little scratch. It's nothing. Tears streamed down my face as I trembled, touching his face, choked up and unable to speak. You idiot, you scared me to death. I won't die, I won't die. I hugged him tightly. From now on, you're not allowed to get hurt, not allowed to bleed, and definitely not allowed to shield yourself in front of me anymore. He nodded repeatedly. Okay. But I knew that no matter how many times he went back, in that moment of danger, he would instinctively protect me. After a long while, we finally calmed down, and only then did we realize that the person in the car was Lorenzo Fontaine. Victoria Lancaster, you're still not dead. She stared at me, her face pale, her eyes hollow, but her face had completely changed, looking very artificial. Evidence of cosmetic surgery. There had been rumors before that Lorenzo Fontaine was obsessively altering her face. I hadn't paid much attention, but it turned out to be true. A former classmate once recounted that she had confessed her feelings to Sebastian Montague, who had bluntly rejected her, saying her actions were demeaning to herself. Maybe looking in the mirror a lot will give you the answer. At that time, many people online criticized her for being ugly both inside and out. She began to undergo more cosmetic surgeries, becoming increasingly dissatisfied with her appearance, and it was said that her family background was not wealthy. Eventually, she started borrowing money online. Her studies were interrupted, and many schools imposed penalties. In the end, when she could no longer repay her debts, she even became the mistress of a middle-aged boss. Lorenzo Fontaine stared at me like a madwoman, screaming hoarsely, "It's all your fault. You've ruined my entire life. Victoria Lancaster, what gives you the right to be loved by everyone while I can only live in darkness? Clearly, I'm so much better than you." I smiled calmly. Perhaps that's karma. Watching the once proud girl now reduced to this state before me, I fell silent for a moment before saying, "Call the police." During my college graduation, my efforts were rewarded, and I won the championship in the cut dowel competition. As soon as I stepped off the stage, I saw someone waving frantically, holding a bouquet of fresh flowers. I joyfully rushed into his arms and asked, "Did I dance well?" "You were breathtaking, like a ghost." He looked at me, his gaze like that of a lovesick fool questioning his sovereign, understanding his sovereign, becoming his sovereign. That same year, Adrian Vaughn represented the country in the Olympics. At 22, he plunged into the water with extraordinary speed and determination, leaving the world record behind, surpassing himself once again. During the awards ceremony, when he looked up at the 5-star national flag being raised, his eyes glistened. When interviewed by domestic reporters, he couldn't hold back his tears. "Thank you, my country. Thank you, coach. Thank you. Thank you, my wife." His voice was choked, tears streaming down his face. The more he cried, the more emotional he became, and eventually, several reporters had to gather around to comfort him. Just then, as if remembering something, he awkwardly pulled a diamond ring from his jacket pocket, his hands trembling, tears still flowing. The reporters, unsure of what to do, looked at me helplessly and hurriedly said, "You should agree quickly, or we won't be able to calm him down." I looked at this man causing such a commotion, unable to cry or laugh, and quickly stepped forward to hug him, slipping the ring onto my finger. All right, I agree to you." After a long while, he blushed and asked me, "Honey, did I embarrass myself just now?" I sighed. It wasn't that bad." He raised both hands in assurance. "Next time, I definitely won't cry again." I silently rolled my eyes at him. "You say that every time." I cried like it was raining. Half the pool was filled with his tears. What else could it be? In the years that followed, Adrian Vaughn represented the nation, winning one glory after another, while I, through my own efforts, stepped onto bigger stages. By the age of 28, Adrian Vaughn no longer had the strength to swim. Carrying a career full of honor, he retired. As for me, I also stepped aside for younger dancers, returning to the classroom to become a teacher. That year, we began planning to have a child. I anxiously asked him, "Do you think our child will be too foolish?" He replied, "If they're talented, they'll give back to the country. If they're average, they'll be a joy to their parents. We've never had a complete family or love. We'll use the way we loved ourselves as children to raise our own." 10 years after graduation, we were invited back to the school to attend the anniversary celebration as distinguished alumni. Some old classmates were also there. Suddenly, someone mentioned, "Hey, have you heard about Sebastian Montague? Apparently, his family has gone bankrupt." I heard that right after graduation. He invested in real estate and made quite a bit of money, but then the real estate market crashed, funding dried up, and other investments suffered heavy losses. Now his company is bankrupt and facing enforcement actions. Hearing this, I was taken aback, feeling how distant that name seemed. Someone suddenly turned to ask, "Hey Victoria, back then, did you like him?" I shook my head vigorously. "Not at all." This is where the story ends. Thank you for following along.